Hello, everybody. Welcome into the Casual Sports Podcast. I'm Alek, Koberna. That's Matt Morrison. Hope you're all having a fantastic Tuesday. Mike will be with us here in a couple of minutes. He's always late on this day. So let's get things started off. Actually, a little high school basketball, playoffs here for the girls are coming up. So I won't be on the show tomorrow. I might as well mention my two teams then today. So Cardinal Mooney is one of the two teams I've been covering this season as we've established here on this show, and they got a playoff game coming up tomorrow night at 7 p.m. They're going against Hubbard. Should be a really fantastic game. Coach DiOrio from Cardinal Mooney has been very confident on how he feels against this Hubbard team. He definitely feels like this should be a team that can get past the first round. Expects a little bit of difficulty. Obviously to the playoffs, it's not going to be an easy ride, but they got some very talented girls in Scavina, Famia, and Ratuno. That big three, and then the junior Maria Fire. She's really been stepping up, and she's been a great addition to their squad. They finally got some height underneath with her, and she's a rebounding machine and very talented young player. So if they can get their shots down, and that's the biggest thing with Mooney, is they've struggled sometimes this season to score the ball, but they have one of the best defenses around. Maybe I would say in that top 10, obviously, I believe Salem girls, those girls have the number one defense, I think, all around. They were, I think, on YSN's website, I think they said they allowed like 23.2 points allowed per game this season. So that was a fantastic number out of Salem. This Mooney squad, they're going to allow about probably 30-ish. I believe that's around their numbers they're on. So they're in that great territory, but it's just because their offense, it struggles at times because their defense, I think they use up all their energy on defense, and they don't have much left in the tank when they're down at the other side. But this team has found ways to win games, and they're on their longest win streak of the season. I believe they're going in now with a 5-game win streak after they captured the Steel Valley Championship this past weekend against their rival Ursuline in the Holy War. It was the earlier matchup of the two. The boys took the second one for Ursuline, but the first game with that Holy War, it was fantastic this past weekend. And this Mooney girls, they're coming into this playoffs red hot. If they beat Hubbard in the first round, most likely later on this week on this Saturday, they'll be taking on Poland Seminary or Cortland Lakeview. Poland's a heavy favorite to win that matchup that first round. So very potential Mooney versus Poland in that second round will be must-watch TV this weekend. For sure, that'll be a 1 o'clock game if that happens. But they got Hubbard tomorrow night at 7. And then the girls that I have been very high on this season, Matt, Youngstown Liberty. They got a good matchup coming on tomorrow night, which is a big game that I will actually be at. They're going up against East Palestine. Palestine's kind of had a down season. They're kind of like a Campbell Memorial, who this Liberty squad just ran over. And, Matt, your team has coming up tomorrow. I'm sure you'll talk about that on tomorrow's show a little bit.
Yeah.
And obviously, I'm not on the Wednesday show, so I'm giving my rundowns now. This Liberty, I mean, they've had one loss, and it was to your Brookfield squad, who's the number 2 seed in this bracket area. So this first round, you don't want to just push off anybody. And I'm sure when I go talk to the coach before this game tomorrow, she's going to say the same thing. You can't go overlooking any opponent. Everyone's coming out. This is, at the moment, this is everybody's Super Bowl from now on. This is the most important game you've played, and everyone's going to come out playing like that. And she just, I'm guaranteeing she's going to tell me we just can't come out flat like we did against Brookfield, because they came out flat one time and it burned them. So, I mean, that's kind of been their MO this entire rest of the season after that loss was, we can't start slow again. We have to come out feeling like this is our championship and that we're not allowed to score in the second half, so we have to get everything in the first. I mean, that's just kind of their mentality. If they get past that one, which as a 1 seed, they are a heavy favorite going up against East Palestine, who's number 24. Second round, probably another easy matchup. They will have a 22 seeded Mineral Ridge in the waiting this Saturday at 1 p.m. if they can get there. And then after that, we could see just a true MVAC championship potentially on the line. As I mentioned, Liberty won the MVAC Gray. Well, Waterloo is sitting on the other side in the MVAC Scarlet as undefeated champions. They didn't lose in the MVAC Scarlet series. So we have a potential going into what I believe would be the district semifinals to have an MVAC championship between Liberty and Waterloo. So, I mean, a fantastic matchup potentially next week to go on. And it would kind of just give one side of the MVAC bragging rights. Waterloo still has a hard shot to get there. They'll most likely have to take on South Range going into that sectional finals. So it'll be a hard matchup for them, no doubt, but we got some great teams coming through this bracket. I mean, our top seeds coming out are Liberty, Waterloo, South Range, Hannah United, they're a 9 seed, and then Matt, your Brookfield team, and LeBray is right there too as a 12. I think they're a sneaky team. Ursuline, their girls, they were a little shaky, but as I saw them going up against a strong defensive team, they still had a fantastic offense against my Mooney squad. So they might be one of the biggest sleepers coming out of this bracket to potentially pull some chaos, because obviously that's a very, very proud school. I mean, they got just as many banners as my Mooney team, and they've playing here in Division 3. This is a team that's kind of bounced around between 2 and 3 throughout their history. I think they're a very dangerous team potentially in this bracket. And obviously, Matt, your Brookfield squad, as you'll talk about tomorrow, your first 2 rounds could be very easy. Memorial not expected to really give Brookfield a challenge, and you'll have Connie out potentially after that. And right now, Brookfield looks like they're in a great spot based on seeding alone to make it to a district finals appearance. They'll have to most likely take on either Ursuline, United, or LeBray, which should all be tough matchups. But I think this top side of the bracket, there's some real dangerous players with Waterloo, South Range, and Liberty. But that's all I got for there. To the high school preview. Both my games tomorrow at 7 p.m. up in Liberty for East Palestine, and should be a good one. Right. I'm expecting a sectional semifinal win there for the Leopards.
Yeah, it should be a very exciting run for them, and can't wait to see what they do. But originally I was supposed to have Brookfield against Heartland Christian, but I decided that I'd rather call the Badger Braves tonight. So I'm actually gonna be on the call for the Braves tonight. It's their final home game of the year, so I figured I've been calling them all year. Might as well stick with them, and then I'll be calling their tournament game as well. But I can talk a little bit about. I mean, Brookfield, they're gonna have their hands full though. Heartland Christian, they have a kid named John Burdovich. I mean, I don't know the exact stat, but he is one of the main leaders in the Columbiana County for scoring. So so the main thing for Brookfield tonight is to stop Burdovich. So they're going to have their hands full. I know Badger did when they played Heartland Christian. They've only lost 3 games. So very much so. So, but Badger, the last time they played Chalker, they lost 70-56. They didn't have Carter Burnett in that game. Carter Burnett, I believe, is playing tonight. He played the other night. So, and I saw him the other day. He didn't have the cast on anymore, or the brace on anymore. Maybe he only plays it when he wears it when he's playing. But hopefully he'll be back in the lineup. Last time they played them, though, Jack Lendeck scored 48 points in that game. So that'd be So, and they lost. They lost 70-56, and he put up 48 points.
That's
so if
rough.
you get Burnett in there and you get Lendeck to put off that performance again,
that's gonna be hard to replicate, though. I mean, that's
and they're at home. They're at home, so we should see. But they're trying to finish out. They're trying to finish out 500 here. They're about 9-10, so they're in the playoffs. I'll be calling their playoff game, so it should be interesting to see what happens. But it should be a pretty good game here tonight.
Yeah, hopefully we'll keep a track on some of the YSN teams going through the playoffs as things progress, especially past this first round. Once we get out the districts, we'll be talking about those teams that have made it out to that range, if any are on YSN still. But should be some great stuff going on throughout these brackets. Should be a fun playoff, that's for sure. And as the NFL season has officially come to an end, so has our voting for all football season. So we will be unveiling the results of those and who came away as the individual champions of this first round of voting. So this is actually from college football, our college football voting results. We'll do this one first. It's been a while since I tallied everything up, but I got everything down in there. So our overall champions for who picked the most games right was actually tied between me and Matt. We both had 75 correct picks throughout the season. Mike had 65. Obviously, in those final few weeks, he wasn't on the show as often as we were going through the bowl games.
I went on that run. I went on a run.
You went on a huge run, but Mike may have actually benefited from not predicting all of those bowl games, because Mike is the college football champion based on win percentage. He picked it right 59.6% of the time. Matt, you came in second with a 58.1% correct picks. And I was actually in last place at 57.3%. So
it's all real
we were
close,
all very
though.
close. Yeah, I mean, we were all pretty much neck and neck. I mean, it's hard to get close than that. But really, I mean, that was a fantastic college football season. And then over into the NFL as the Super Bowl. Matt, yes, you did finish in last place with 57.2%. So you were a little bit worse than what you were in college football, but you're pretty much what I did in college football. So, I mean, not bad. I think it's a win that we're all up near 60% right. I mean, if you just flip a coin, it's going to be right about 50% of the time. Well, actually, technically, depending on which way you do it, it's actually 51-49, but we don't have the time to go into the math on that. So I like that we're doing better than a coin flip at least. So I like that. Overall champion for most picks right was me. I had 147 correct picks on the season. Matt, you had 135. Mike had 120. Again, he did not pick as many games as us. He missed a couple Fridays in there. In second place of the NFL voting tallies was Mike with a 59% mark on that one. He had 59% on both, so I think when we go to finish off the rest of these seasons, I'll be very intrigued to see where he finishes off some of those runs. And then me, I was the only one that eclipsed 60% on any pick so far. I finished with 147-90 record with a correct pick percentage of 62%. And so I take home the grand championship there for NFL voting results. As it stands in total right now, after this week, those numbers will be taken out of our poll. So at the moment, for all of the picks in total, I'm number one, 415 correct, 264 wrong with a pick percentage of 61.1%. Matt, you are in second place right now with a total of 416 correct picks and 284 wrong picks with a pick percentage of 59.4. And then Mike is in last place right now, 338 right, 237 wrong, and a pick percentage of 58.8% at the moment. So obviously after this week, football wiped off the board, a clean sheet to finish things off here before we obviously roll back around into baseball. Baseball will be huge. I think, we're going to have an entire summer. We're probably talking 4 or 5 games every day going on. So those numbers are going to rack up fast. To avoid getting into the thousands when we're talking about picks, we got to omit some of these ones going into the future. Come back around. They'll start next football season. I'll put everything back together and see how we did through one whole year.
Okay. But hopefully we can pick some baseball games if this strike ends.
Yeah, it's a strike, but hey, I was doing some research on it. I know we were talking about this the other week on whether or not minor league baseball would have a season, and they will. So the minor league is not affected by the lockout in Major League Baseball because that's the Major League Players Association. The minor league isn't affected. So if we do have a spring training, it'll be all minor league players. So, we're going to have the replacements coming to MLB, and then regular season for what MLB would be. You might see groups like ESPN, TBS, TNT, and all the whatnots going to cover minor league baseball because it might be the only thing on this summer. So I think that could be very intriguing to see. And obviously YSN, we got the Mahoning Valley Scrappers here covered on the network. So there'll be plenty of baseball. We also got all the events going on at Scene Park. We got high school baseball coming up here March 26th, I believe, is when the season starts. So we're almost a month away from high school baseball tipping off. And I got to make sure I double check when the softball season starts as well, because I think they're right around one another in it. But girls normally start first because their basketball season ends first. So we'll double check that. But yeah, we're close to baseball time as we finish out. Obviously, the NFL is gone, and it'll be a very interesting next few months here for the show to see where things take us. No more football to talk about in total. We'll still have the combine, the draft, things like that to talk about, but very interesting to see. And obviously the coaching carousel, however that ends up, and player transfers, there's still a few big names out there on the transfer portal. So should be interesting next few months though, for sure. Let's go ahead and get into the college basketball top 10, the main event of the show today. Coming in at number 10, there is no number 10. We had a two-way tie for 9th coming into this one.
How does this happen?
Yeah, it happens because Villanova and Duke were two teams that I didn't put in. So Mike had Duke at 9, you had him at 10. He had Villanova at 9, and Duke at 10. So you guys were flipped on those two back and forth. They actually received the same amount of votes as the team that finished off in 8th place, but because that team had the higher vote, I put them up at number 8. So we pretty much had a 3-way tie for 9th place. When I go to put them together, if I have somebody that gets more higher votes, I give them the edge on it. So with that being said, our number 9 team is Duke and Villanova. They split this one, and this is one of those groups I still don't like Villanova. I still feel they're very hyped. I mean, we're going to see how they play tonight because they got Providence, a game we're going to talk about later.
Yes.
I love the right now. They're great, but Gillespie right now for Nova, he's averaging 16 points a game, and that's good. I still don't think this team is as good as everybody thinks. I mean, they're coming off close wins against unranked Seton Hall and St. John's. Both of those games were close. They did get a top 25 win over UConn, but just not too long ago, they took a double-digit loss to Marquette. So I think this team is getting forgiven a little too quickly on things as the season continues to roll on. I still don't have confidence in them. Yeah, they're number 2 right now in the Big East, but I know we've been talking how strong this conference is. This conference has taken some L's recently, and that great squad mentality they're having has definitely started to slip off, and I don't feel as confident about the Big East anymore. Kind of how the Big 12 was beginning of the season, so dominant, and now they've had some slip-offs, the Big 10 as well. The later you get in the season, the more teams you're going to have losing. For me, one of the biggest things to look at right now when I was putting this list together was, are you a 20-win team or not? Because to me, if you're at 20 wins at this point in the season, you have shown me something. I haven't seen that out of the Villanova squad. Duke, they're on the edge there. I feel like we just keep throwing them back in here, though, and they actually haven't earned that right to be a top 10 team.
Yeah.
Because we throw them up there with nobody, and then they go and lose to somebody, and you just throw them out. I think we need to, wait a little bit for this shoving and pushing to kind of equal out and see where this team falls. I mean, they lost to Virginia on the 7th, and then last week they beat Clemson and Boston College, 2 teams that are in the bottom 4 of the ACC, and they, for some reason, can jump right back up into the top 10. For me, it's still a little too early on those two, Matt. What about you? What are you thinking here? As you had both these teams in your top 10s.
Yeah,
and why did you put them in that order with Villanova over Duke? I mean, what was your mindset here when you were putting your list together? Hold on, welcome in, Mike.
Mike in here now. So, I mean, with Villanova, they're a 6-loss team. Like, okay, all right, they have 6 losses. I was very, reluctant to put them in the top 10, but I looked at you look at their 6 losses. I think their 6 losses are better losses than Duke's 4 losses. So that's why I put them ahead of them. I think Duke had some hiccup losses. Villanova, they lose to UCLA, they lose to Baylor. Creighton, even Creighton's a solid team to lose too. And then, of course, Marquette, they lost to Marquette twice, and you know how high I am on Marquette. So that's why I put them ahead. Duke, they lost some games that are
quality wins, but they don't have any quality losses.
Yeah,
all their losses are bad.
Exactly. So that's why I put them over Duke.
Well, Mike, we'll catch you up here real quick. Going to the college basketball top 10s. We don't have a number 10 team. These two tied for 9, same amount of votes and opposite flipping positions between you and Matt. I didn't put either one of these teams in. If I had, it would have changed these numbers and gave us a solid 9 and 10, but I put my list in first and I wasn't changing it. What are your thoughts on Duke and Villanova at this point of the season? And you had Duke higher than Villanova. What's your strategy there between these two?
So everything Matt just said, I agree with and I considered, but at the end of the day,
Duke lost to Virginia and Miami.
At the end of the day, though, it's the same thing I usually say in college football. You're comparing 4 losses to 6 losses. I understand everything you just said. I get it, whatever, but 4 losses to 6 losses.
Yeah, I mean, fair enough. And Villanova hasn't hit that 20-win mark to me, which is why I can't give them that.
Yeah, I agree with that too.
They hit 20 wins against Providence tonight. I'll have no problem next week throwing this team up into the top 10 as long as they don't lose, because I feel like that's been what's happening, right? You see one of these teams on the edge knock off one of the top 10 teams, and then they slip up to nobody in the next game because they put everything out there and they didn't have anything left. So it should be some good games for our 9 and 10 teams. We'll talk about those a little bit later. And Mike, just to catch you up along this as well, based on the college football voting results that we put together throughout the season, you came out as grand champion at the highest win percentage,
really?
Highest correct pick percentage for college football, but you were last in the NFL.
That's fine. I got one.
Yeah, I took home championship for the NFL and last place for college football. and you were first place for the NFL, second place for the NFL, and first place for college. So we wiped the floor with Matt all season. That's pretty much
sounds good. Where'd he finish in college?
That was solid. He just couldn't get over the hump, and you were about as consistent as possible. You were sitting at I
don't know how either.
59% correct pick percentage throughout both of those. So well done there. I was actually up at like 63% for NFL picking, which was weird. I don't know how I did that because
I don't know how I did on college either. College is way too hard.
Yeah. That was impossible. Yeah, it was a fun season, though, and we'll get back around to it. But let's continue to move on here. Sitting at number 8, I'm the only one that put him up there, so I guess I got to defend him. Murray State. This is a team that we have all been starting to get really hyped on. I really like what this team has been doing, and it's hard at this point in the season to say that they aren't deserving out of the Ohio Valley. They're 24-2 on a 14-game win streak. They only have one loss on the road, and the other loss they have in the season came in one of those early stage tournaments. So to me, this team, despite the fact they don't have those massive wins against anybody, they really don't have like those losses that you have to look at for a team like Villanova or Duke. To me, this is one of those teams that kept in with being a top 10 team. And you look at some of the other squads they've beat throughout the season. Some of those teams have good record, like Long Beach State. We just talked about that the other day. They beat them by nearly 40 points early in the season. They beat Tennessee Wesleyan back in December, 118-48. This is a team that is really freaking good, and they've been getting closed in on a couple times, but they just beat Belmont by 22, a team we were just talking about that pulled off an upset not too long ago, and they're coming off 2 wins against Morehead State, the number 2 team in their conference. They beat Austin, PA. They beat Tennessee Tech, and right now this team to me is playing as well as anybody out there, including even potentially a team like Gonzaga, who's kind of just rolling along at this point.
Murray State would be Gonzaga.
Murray State is one of those teams right now that, to me, so long as they keep winning, they're a top 10 team in the nation. And I don't really think you can say anything against that. I mean, if we get down here in the next month and they're still undefeated, I mean, you're talking about a team on a potential, 25-game win streak to finish out the season going into March. To me, that is as best as you can do at this point in the season. You shrugged off those early losses, and now you've rolled 14 straight. I like Murray right now.
Matt, I'd like to bet you on that.
The Murray State would beat Gonzaga. I'd bet it. Are you kidding me? They would. They would. And they kept in with they really kept in with Auburn too. I mean, Auburn pulled at the end there, and this was near the beginning of the season too. They lost 71-58. Replay that game again. It might be a little bit closer. Auburn might win, but I mean, it might be closer. But Murray State, I mean, they beat solid teams. Alek, you gave the rundown. What solid teams has Gonzaga beat? There's no solid teams in their conference at all. Murray State would give them a run.
I mean, you talk a lot about San Francisco.
The Dons.
You guys love that team, so.
Yeah. I mean, the Dons were good. They slipped up a little bit here, but
they slipped up a little bit. And they're supposed to play each other again, so look out for that.
Hopefully, the rematch is a little bit better.
This team might be better than when John Morant was there. Honestly.
Yeah, I think they're more balanced team. I mean, when Ja was there, they had the superstar, kind of like with Dayton with Obi Toppin. I mean, they were dominant when he was there. Georgia with Anthony Edwards, they were dominant when they were there. But sometimes you see better teams just when they're more balanced without that superstar taking away the spotlight.
Yeah.
I mean, kind of like with this team here, number 7, Purdue. I mean, they're a very even squad all throughout. I mean, they've kind of shown that all season. This is still one of those squads, though, that I've been 50-50 on. I feel like we keep forgiving their losses too easily. I mean, they lost on Thursday to Michigan by almost 30 points. Closer to 24 points in that one. I know they were coming off a big win against Illinois, but I threw Illinois out of this top 10. They got killed to me, and I left Purdue at 7 here because of all the teams we had slip up in that bottom portion of our top 10s. I mean, even Auburn went down. They didn't really take much of a slip because they're still the best team out there in reality. But to me, with this Purdue squad, they're on the edge right now to me. And for one of those biggest things is they're probably the best team in the Big Ten. They're 22 with just 4-4. To me, the one biggest thing about them, they need to play better on the road. They are 4-3 on the road this season. And come March Madness, I think that might be the biggest number to look at for some of these teams is how they play away from home. Because we know every good basketball team plays great at home. But how do you do when you're out of your comfort zone for the first times? Come postseason. I mean, the fact that you only have 7 road games to this point, 7 true road games, and you have 2 more tests on the road coming up this season at Michigan State and at Wisconsin to finish February and start March. I'm interested to see how that goes. I think they probably slip up in at least one of those games. I don't have confidence in Purdue on the road. I think that may be one of the biggest problems I have when you look throughout our top 10 teams. If I can't say this team has been great on the road and at home, to me, everyone's great at home. You should be great at home. You got that home court advantage. All these guys are young, untested, not used to that travel. You should play great at home. But the test to me of a really good team is what they do on the road, and Purdue just hasn't been that.
No, they really haven't.
Home to be a top 10 team, but when you already have 3 losses on the road and only 4 wins, there's something wrong there fundamentally that they need to fix at the later stage of the season. I mean, they can finish things out 7-3 overall, and that'll be fine. But if they don't do that, then I think questions pop up of how good this.
I think they do too. I think they do too. I mean, look at the losses. I mean, they lose to Wisconsin, or that Rutgers beat them too. They lost to Indiana in Indiana. So, I mean, they're not good on the road
tonight too. That could potentially shake them up.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Rutgers, man, they're beating teams.
Northwestern.
Rutgers is undefeated against top 25 opponents.
Yeah, Purdue, Michigan State, Ohio State, Wisconsin.
They just beat 3 top 10 opponents.
Right, in the span of
a
row.
Consecutive games.
Yeah.
That's unbelievable. They're 15-9. Look out for them. And Purdue's still favored to beat them by a lot.
Yeah.
93.6% when they play.
That's tonight's game, isn't it?
No.
It's on the 20th. It's
on the 20th?
Sunday, yeah.
Sunday game.
Well, I know what we're talking about.
How can you do that? I don't know.
I know what we're talking about later this week. Purdue at Rutgers. Put it on the calendar.
Throw it in there now. Heck yeah.
Heck yeah.
I mean, if Rutgers continues to win here, even if they lose against some non-ranked Big Ten team, I might still have them as the favorite against Purdue with the way they seem to play. Especially if it's at Purdue. I mean, whatever this ends up being at, Purdue's a team that struggles, and I think they got a problem coming to them come March Madness. But let's move on here. Number 6 on our list, a team I've absolutely loved this season, the Friars of Providence, getting the highest ranking this week. They really benefited from everybody else falling around, being number 1 in the Big East Conference, as I said a little bit earlier, starting to slip up a little bit in my opinion. But Providence has really kind of made a stretch away from the rest of them, and I think that's why they're starting to. You see that little bit of a slip up coming out of the Big East, because Villanova and Providence has started to separate from the rest of everybody else as the 2 favorites to come out of this in March. I had this team sitting at 5. I like them better than Kansas. Purdue's coming off a loss. I think this Providence team, as it stands right now, on an 8-game winning streak, 11-1 in conference play, they have to be one of the favorites to win this all. They have a game tonight against Nova that we'll talk about that they aren't favored in, despite being the home team. I think that's a little questionable. I know they're coming up with a tight game a couple nights ago in overtime against DePaul, but this team, they're a total team, man, and they can have any one guy go off at any night, and you don't see that a lot of times with some of these college programs. They have more than one guy that can go big in big moments, and I feel like this Providence team has one.
Oh, they do. This team is going to make a run.
The only ones we're comparing to that is like Auburn.
Yeah,
I'll tell you what. And I was telling Matt the other day. I think we were talking about Providence or some other team in the Big East. This is my favorite conference, probably. It's probably one of the most underrated ones.
Turn your silent on.
Oh, it's on.
Put your silent on. I keep hearing your phone go off. Who's texting?
Sorry, it's off.
Mom telling you what's for dinner tonight? What's going on? What's she making?
No, I don't know what she's making tonight, but that's not her.
Okay. Yeah.
You guys got your new school phone bells. I got the old kind.
I didn't realize. Yeah, we can use that one now for the upset bell.
Yeah, we can still use that bell.
No, we can use this. Is what I'm saying.
Oh yeah.
You just use your phone. I'll just text you. Upset. So that it goes off.
Yeah, what were we talking about?
Team right now.
No, I was telling Matt. They're probably this is one of the better conferences in the Big East. It's probably my favorite one too. Yeah. You got all these teams like Providence, and I actually have them at 7 in my rankings, but I have no problem with them being 6.
Oh, where did I have them? I had them up there too.
You had them at 6. Mike, you had them at 7.
Okay.
Yeah,
I had them at 5.
With a win tonight, I believe they're in the top 3 if they beat Villanova.
I don't know about
that's
top
right.
three. That's
Yeah.
really hard to break into. I think at the moment I have them as high as they can go without somebody ahead of them losing because
Okay.
I don't think I can rationalize putting them over Gonzaga, Auburn, Arizona, or Kentucky. None of those teams lose. Maybe Gonzaga, but Gonzaga's had the benefit of they sat up there so long,
Yeah.
they kind of gained that prestige to not fall, for no
They're
reason.
playing bad
So
teams.
yeah,
They
I mean
do
they
slip
are,
up, that
but
means, hey,
at the same time, if they slip up, yes, then you have to question it. But as you saw last season, this team was perfect.
You still got
Perfectly built on March.
Yeah.
So I don't see any reason to punish Gonzaga for doing the same thing they did last year. In the last 15 years? When's the last time somebody really challenged Gonzaga for the WCC?
Yeah.
I don't know. Let me Google it.
You still got to beat them though, Matt. I mean, none of these teams are really good, but you still got to win them.
Are you Googling it?
Yeah, and
right,
it's West Coast. Yeah, West Coast
WCC.
Conference. So, I mean, no one's really challenged Gonzaga in there recently. I don't think it's going to change. Gonzaga is the benefit of they're going to have that top spot until Auburn or Arizona or Kentucky decides to make a huge step up end of the season and take that away from them. Because I don't think Gonzaga's slipping. And, if Providence makes a run here to finish out their season, they probably have a good shot then to jump up there. Because, I mean, look at the rest of the season. Villanova tonight at 8 p.m. Then this Sunday, they got Butler on the road. Then they host Xavier and Creighton back-to-back. Xavier's a team that keeps jumping in and out of the top 25. And then they finish out the season on the road at Villanova. So it's a rough road coming up for Providence. They might get the jump over Kansas, but at the moment, I got Kentucky and Kansas neck and neck for that 4 or 5 spot. And Arizona, Auburn, and Gonzaga, to me, are the 3 best teams we have right now.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, I mean, to me, 5, 6, this is about as high as you can get for Kansas. For Providence. I don't think they can really jump much more than 5 unless they do something incredible. And I mean, that's no shot at them. That's just you got 4 teams ahead of them that have really solidified a spot.
So, sorry. Last time, actually, somebody else than Gonzaga actually won the WCC tournament was 2019. I guess St. Mary's won it. So I thought it was going to be like a long list. It's actually a lot of Gonzaga, but the only other team to substitute in there is St. Mary's.
Yeah.
Like every couple of years, they get it.
I told you about them.
Yeah. The last time somebody not named Gonzaga or St. Mary's that won it was 2008 when San Diego won it. So
yeah, so like we're saying, it's been a while. That WCC is pretty much dominated by Gonzaga and sometimes St. Mary's. So, yeah, I mean, St. Mary's was a top 25 team until they lost to Gonzaga.
Yeah.
Not too long ago. So just let this, I think this last week or last week. So let's keep moving here. Top 5 now we unveil at 5, the Jayhawks of Kansas. As I said, this is a team I have behind Providence. I like what Providence is doing a little bit more. I'm really impressed with this lineup they have though going on for Kansas. I mean, I really think this is a very talented squad and 21-4 overall in the season, pulled off a 14-point win last night against Oklahoma State. They slipped up last Monday against Texas, and that hurts. Coming off a couple of big games though against Texas Tech, Kentucky, Iowa State, Baylor, Texas, and then finishing that on with Oklahoma and Oklahoma State. This team ran through the meat and potatoes of their schedule, and it's still not over. They still have Baylor and Texas to come back around again on the season, and Huggy Bears West Virginia squad that has completely slipped off Big 12 play. But still, as dangerous as ever to come in there, and TCU, a team that is on 50-50 right now, and the Big 12 could be a challenge. So I like what they got going together, but I still want to take it easy before I jump them back up into that top 6, especially with a team like Providence playing so good. When you saw, them lose to Texas, obviously that was a hard part of the schedule, and they were pulling out some really gutsy wins, and it took it out of them a little bit. I mean, to still through that run, especially after Kentucky put the hurt on them, which is why I have Kentucky in that elite status for one of those top 4 teams, Providence right on the edge of that. Kansas, to me, they're a step behind Providence. I think they have the talent to be better than Providence, but I don't think they've been able to show that off with how tough of a schedule they have right now in that Big 12. And, when they had to jump out of conference to go against Kentucky, to me, to lose that game by 18, it puts that gap in between these two teams. And, unless we see them meet back up again, which obviously we won't unless they play in March, I think if they win it back the other way, then it would close that gap, but they don't have that opportunity. For me, Kentucky, so long as they don't slip up, will stay ahead of Kansas the entire rest of the season. So long, if neither one of these teams loses, they'll probably be 4-5 the whole way, probably right next to each other on the way things go. I just like Providence better at this point in the season with how you've played in the month. I always love to look, what have you done for me now, not then? I mean, cool, you won a game 5, a 10-point game against a top 25 team 5-6 games ago. But if you go into 1-point wins against the worst teams in your conference in the last 3 or 4, then I'm starting to lose confidence in you, or don't know if I want to put you that high. To me, that's kind of how I'm feeling about Kansas right now. Providence, they've had some dominant wins. I mean, they have been close, don't get me wrong, but they keep showing that they have guys to make it out. When you're only a 2-loss team on the season, it's hard to put another team that, even at 4 losses ahead of you with how great you've played so far. So Kansas, they're a really good squad, obviously to be a top 5 in the nation. They most likely will be a 2 seed come March, and I really hope they do. And I think this is definitely a team that has the chance to make a run if they can put things together and have probably an easier side of the bracket. I think they're going to be exhausted coming out of this Big 12 gauntlet. So I think we saw it last year with Oklahoma State, one of those teams that Oklahoma State and Texas Tech, both of them that were phenomenal regular season, got to the postseason, slipped up immediately after running through those gauntlets last year. You see it with the Pac-12 a couple of times as well. And if you go through that hard regular season, you got a big chance to slip up in the end of it. And I think you might see that from the Big 12 again this year with Kansas especially.
Yeah, Matt, I like they're putting together here with those wins that they had in that tough stretch. They have a little bit more room to breathe, a little bit more as West Virginia and Kansas State. But
they're
like
just worn out against Texas.
Yeah,
they just put everything they had within Baylor, and I mean they blew Baylor out, and they get a chance to do that again here in Baylor. So I think they can do it again, but they just got exhausted with Texas, and Texas just got the better of them. They get a chance at Texas again too. So I mean, we're just going to have to see what happens. I think they can possibly win out the rest of their games. It's going to be tough with Baylor, and then, back-to-back against TCU. That's going to stink. It really is. And then you finish out the season against Texas, who beat you in a nail-biter. So they got some –
that's
they
a
have some
game for them for sure.
do.
But that's what I got to worry about with them having to finish the season out so strong, and especially going into the Big 12 play to win the regular season Big 12 championship and the postseason, Big 12 championship tournament. I think the come out of there is going to be one of the biggest tests of any team, maybe even more so than the Big 10 gauntlet that'll come out, because I think you have a lot of high scoring teams in the Big 12 that you have to keep up with. The Big 10, I think, a little bit stronger defensively, but I think the offense right now is still down south.
Yeah. And I think we were talking about that yesterday, Matt, with this team. It just feels like they're they're 6 in the rankings. It just feels like they are better than that, but I guess it's
like they're out of gas at this point.
Exactly.
They can't keep that train chugging. They just can't get enough coal in that fire to keep things going.
And I think that's going to come and bite them in the tournament. They're going to run out of gas.
This definitely feels like a team that'll slip up.
Yeah.
But let's go to our 1 seeds for March at the moment. Our number 4 team, the Kentucky Wildcats. To me, this has been one of our best teams. 21-4, 10-2 in conference, 6-game win streak. They just seemingly, as the season goes on, are getting better. After that near 20-point win against Kansas in February, it was 7-point win against Vanderbilt, which I think may have just been a hangover effect a little bit. And Vanderbilt, they're not terrible this year, but they're not great. Below 500 in SEC play. But you saw an 11-point win against Bama on the road, a 10-point win on the road against South Carolina, and then a 21-point win at home versus Florida, a team that at that point was 6-5 in conference play, 16-8 overall. A pretty solid team, I think you would say, by all stretch of the imagination. And Bama was right there with them at that same mark. So South Carolina a little bit below them. It's been a really phenomenal streak right now for Kentucky to be averaging 81.3 points per game at this point in the season. That's a phenomenal stretch. Gonzaga really is the only one that has been kind of pulling away from that. So to me, this team, they're top 14. They're a 1 seed guaranteed so long as they don't slip up. I got a lot of faith in what Kentucky is going on right now. They have the number 3 man in the country when it comes to assists and Severe Wheeler. He's averaging 7.2 assists per game. On the defensive side, Oscar Schwebwe is averaging 15.3 rebounds per game. You can't ask for anything better than that.
Sweet.
And, this is just
Mike, are you still there?
I'm there.
All right. He must have cut out. I thought it was me for a second. I'm like,
I was waiting for somebody to say something. I thought I was waiting for him to come back in.
Yeah, I thought he paused for a second. So, I mean, number 4, Kentucky Wildcats, we'll keep going. I mean, I keep talking about Oscar Tshiebwe. I mean, this guy's going to be a pretty good player in the draft. So, I mean, Kentucky is a very solid team, going off, a little bit of what he said. But I think they're a solid team. I think they can make a huge run in it. They're right there with Auburn and Arizona and definitely Gonzaga, too. Right now, I think out of that top 4 there, I mean, Gonzaga is probably the worst in that top 4. There's some rough teams there. Kentucky, Kansas is right there. They might run out of gas, like we were saying, but Kentucky is. I mean, look at the wins that they have.
Matt, they've been rolling.
First game they started out with a loss to Duke, but that was the first game of the year. That's a different team. Then later on, they barely lost to Notre Dame, took an L close to LSU, and then Auburn beat them as well. But after that, they haven't lost since Auburn. They have been winning and winning. They beat a tough Kansas team, beat a tough Alabama team.
Tennessee that they're about to play tonight, too.
They got Tennessee next and Alabama next, and then LSU again, get another shot at LSU. They have Arkansas on their roster. And, Arkansas is definitely a team they're ranked now. They can play basketball. They know what they're doing. So, got to look out for them. I'm not quite sure what his number 3 is, but I could probably take a guess. For number 3 in the rankings.
I could take a guess, but
it might be. I'm pretty sure it's. I mean, I'm sure Auburn is 2. And
I'm here.
There he is. What's wrong? What happened?
My computer kicked the bucket again. I don't know what's been going on with it, but
then?
What?
Are you on your phone then?
No, I got my computer back up, but
okay.
As
you were just talking and ranting, and you cut off, and I thought it was
froze,
me.
and I was like, "What?"
I thought it was me for a second. Mike wasn't talking.
Yeah, no, my entire system shut down. I got to run some diagnostics texts after the show to see what's going on. As I was saying, though, Kentucky, they've hit all the right gears at the right time, and right now, time for 8th place in scoring in the nation. So
we filled in a little bit when you cut out Kentucky. I mean, all their losses are earlier in the year. To Duke was the first game of the year they lost to Duke. Notre Dame was a couple weeks later. They lose to LSU, and then Auburn. They haven't lost since Auburn. They have some tough games coming up, too. I like the Alabama win. They beat Kansas. They have another shot at LSU. And Arkansas is on their schedule, too. And Arkansas, they're a tough team. So,
definitely. All right, well, let's move it on here since you guys had a few minutes to fill anyways. Number 3,
I knew it.
Arizona.
I knew it.
Yeah, I mean.
We're trying to guess.
Our top 3 kind of seems pretty set in stone. I
Mine's
think
the exact same way.
With the way things are going. Arizona, to me, they slipped up when they were that 1 seed, and I think they've really kind of been back on it in these last few weeks, and I think they're finding that rhythm once again. I mean, they left as one of the hottest scoring teams in the nation. They're still up there. I mean, 13-0 at home, 7-2 on the road. They're still only a 2-loss team on a 6-game win streak, so very talented ever since that loss against UCLA, which they redeemed by beating them by double digits on their own, and not to mention a double-digit win against USC. To me, right now, the Pac-12 clearly belongs to Arizona. UCLA has slipped up yet again, so they're in 4th place now behind Oregon and USC. USC, though, is a team I think you got to watch out for to jump back into that top 10 next week, coming off a win against UCLA. Going throughout the rest of the week, they're going to have Washington and Washington State, both those in the top 6 right now, the Pac-12. Arizona might have some competition with USC coming up here to finish out the season for that regular season title.
Yeah, that's going to be fun.
Yeah, it's going to be fun.
USC starting to click a little bit better, too.
It's going to be interesting.
Interesting.
Well,
let's go to number 2 then, since we're down to 15 minutes on the show. Got a few things left in it.
Bad luck.
Number 2, the Auburn Tigers. This is bad luck for Auburn, right? I mean, this is every time
Matt put them in 2?
Number 2, they lose. So,
Matt, did you have them at 2 in your rankings?
Yeah,
they're screwed. Then they're done.
Yeah, right. I mean, it seems every week now Matt's number 2 goes down, whether it's UCLA, Purdue. Now Auburn has that shit to fall apart. Matt, this is just the curse of number 2 right now for Matt Morrison. I don't know what it is.
Last week that lost.
Yeah, who was it?
I'm trying to think that.
I think Purdue was week before.
Purdue. It was Purdue, Matt.
Was it?
It's Purdue. Where did I have Gonzaga then? Didn't I have them at 2?
No, last week Matt had Gonzaga at 3. and the 2 teams ahead of them.
Okay. So
So the curse.
Look out,
Dude,
Auburn.
I don't know
Look
what
out.
it is with you and the number 2, but I don't want to be associated.
who does Auburn play? Let's see here. I'm looking at their
What's
schedule.
on Auburn's schedule this week?
I'm looking.
I got it. Vanderbilt.
Oh,
Tomorrow.
they got Vanderbilt. Yeah, they got Florida and Vanderbilt.
Florida will pull it.
Oh,
Florida's gonna pull
Vanderbilt's
the
tomorrow,
upset,
so I don't see that happening. Maybe Florida. We'll see. They better look out now.
Matt, what day is that Florida one on?
the 19th.
Saturday.
Okay, I'll throw it on the list of what we got to talk about.
Okay.
It's a Matt curse. They're done.
It's a curse.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, we might just all have to go pick against Auburn this weekend.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that leaves us one option for number 1, the Bulldogs. I mean, they've kind of just been walking through the WCC. They got no competition. It's not even interesting to talk about or to watch at this point. It feels like. I mean, it's a blowout week after week up there in Portland. I mean, they got
Pepperdine
seemingly
tomorrow.
no competition.
Hey.
Yeah, right.
Hey,
the team they beat 117 to 83 last time.
I'm kidding. They don't.
I
Wait,
mean,
they don't have. Wait, they have St. Mary's one more time. That's my team.
Beat this team by 40 last time out. It's insane what they're doing. Really. I mean, they got the Dons next week, on the road, and then they finish out against St. Mary's on the 26th. So, I mean, those could be good games. But, I mean, even if you look at the last times they played, I mean, this team beat St. Mary's, a top 25 team, 74-58. They beat the Dons 78-62. It's the number 2 scoring team in the country, 4th in assists, 9th in rebounds. They're only allowing 64 points per game because they have no competition. And this is a team right now in which they're having a rookie in Chet Holmgren or a freshman able to learn everything on the job training, and he just keeps getting better and better. And he's shooting 63% from the field. He's averaging 9.3 rebounds and 3.5 blocks per game. I mean, he's a do-it-all kind of guy. And Drew Timme is, because of that, the floor is opened up for him because they have to watch out for the, 7-footers. Is he bigger than that? How big is Chet? No, yeah, he's 7 foot, 195 pounds, a guy that's also averaging 15 points per game. The floor is wide open for Drew Timme right now to put the ball in the hoop whenever he feels like it. And he's shooting 60% from the field now because of that.
Yeah.
The team is a perfect system. I mean, having Chet in there with Drew Timme, I mean, it's impossible to have 2 big guys like that down under and, not be able to win games. And that's what they've been doing. They've been winning them because of Chet Holmgren.
That's my point. They play weaker opponents, but they still win them, Matt.
Yep. Yeah.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and get out of Chet territory. Stop talking about Gonzaga and the college basketball top 10 here. Let's get into some college basketball previews for tonight. 7 p.m. Duke. I got them on upset alert tonight. They got the Demon Deacons of Wake Forest coming in. Unfortunately, Wake came off a loss against Miami. We talked about that last week. And they're 9.5-point underdogs in this one. And Duke's at home, and I think that might be the biggest part of tonight's game is being at home, a place they've only lost, I believe, once on the season. Definitely a dangerous squad. I think Wake Forest could pull the upset, though. They just have to play better than they did against Miami. They have some okay wins on the season, but when they've had to go on the road and play in some big places, they kind of struggled. I mean, they couldn't get past Syracuse and the Carrier Dome, and, I mean, that's an epic place to go play for sure. And, some of their losses have been on the road, especially they even lost to this Duke squad at home by 12 points. So I think it's dangerous. I got Duke pulling this win tonight. I think they're the better team. I think Wake Forest gives them a shot, though.
I'm going upset. I'm going Wake Forest to take this game. I think they come in. They're not a bad team. They're 20-5. So they're ranked, aren't they? They should be ranked.
No, they aren't because they just lost to Miami. They would have been.
Oh, okay.
Because they just were on the outside looking in, or they had hit 25 last week, and Miami shut them down.
Okay. But I'm gonna take it. I'm gonna take the upset. So
I'm not picking it.
I think there's a potential for one. I don't think Wake Forest is going to do it. I mean, I think they couldn't beat Miami. I think they're going to have a little bit of a letdown right now.
Duke couldn't beat Miami either.
Okay. All right.
Matt's a different opponent.
Right, well, Different opponent. We'll see. Let's move it on here. Another 8 p.m. game tonight. Villanova and the Friars going off against one another. Should be a fantastic game to see. I mean, I love this one. I think everybody knows which way I'm going and probably which way Mike is going on this one.
Yeah.
You like Villanova. I've been liking Providence this season. I think
I'm
those
nervous
two probably
about it, though.
pretty well cemented. Yeah, I mean, I think both squads should definitely be nervous about what this game holds. There seems to be so many things when you look at statistically that it just kind of bounces back and forth. Like points go to Villanova, and so does defensive points allowed, but they're about that close, 2-3 points in either direction. Field goal percentage, nearly perfectly even. There's 0.1 that separates the two. Rebounding, 1.8 better in the favor of Providence. Blocks, 1.7 in favor of Providence. And steals, 0.9 in favor of Villanova. Both of these teams have been neck and neck. They've both had some close games in the Big East play. And obviously, the more recent loss to Marquette for Villanova than Providence's last loss. And they beat Marquette in that stand, granted just by 2. The last loss by either one of these teams was to Marquette. But Providence hasn't lost since January 4th, in which they lost 88-56 to that Marquette squad and then got that win back here in January. So right now, I just think I got Providence taking this game. Obviously, if I got a team in my top 10, especially in battle of 2, I'm taking the one I have ranked higher to put faith in my standings. If I don't think that's going to be happening, I'm going to put it the other way when I rank these guys. I believe Providence is better than Villanova. I put that in my rankings. I don't even have Villanova in my top 10. I like Providence to take this one. You guys know that. Mike, I give your argument here for Villanova because I'm sure that's who you're going with in this one.
I don't know. I don't have a huge argument because, like I said, I'm picking them, but I'm kind of nervous about it because obviously I know how good Providence is. They're up, their best team in the Big East right now, and we have them up in our rankings. So yeah, I'm picking Villanova, and I'm nervous about it.
Matt, you're the tiebreaker here.
Yeah, I know. Listen, I like Villanova.
Whichever way you go, you got to put up a little bit of an argument for it too.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm trying to think of something. But Villanova, I like what they've done here. But I think that Providence just needs one more solid win to kind of solidify themselves as a top contender. And I think it's going to come tonight. I think when they beat Villanova, I'm going with Providence. I give that away. But they beat a good Wisconsin team. They split with Marquette. So they beat Seton Hall as well. But with a win against Villanova, and they have to play them again, too. This is only one of 2 times. So it might come down. You never know what's going to happen. So I'm going to go Providence here. Then I can use this game as a reflected on when we call the next game. So I got to go Providence.
On here to the next game we got going on. The Wildcats of Kentucky got the Tennessee Volunteers. Volunteers actually a favorite here at home. Should be a good one. You got to love right now Tennessee's defense, averaging almost 10 steals per game. They're at 9.9 steals per game. That's phenomenal to say the least. I mean, it's hard to do that. Their offense needs to be a little bit better. And I think with the way you've seen Kentucky turn their offense on, Kentucky probably has this one close in the first half, pulls away in the second. I got Kentucky in a win here tonight.
Yeah, me too. They're just solid. When you cut out, I was going off about them.
That's the first time today we have all agreed.
I got to go Kentucky as well. I think this is a hard one to pick, actually. I think it's going to be close for – yeah, like you said, a good part of the game. I could even say further into the second half it might be close too. But it's a difficult one to pick. It's a rivalry game too. It's a night game tonight on ESPN. But I got to go Kentucky. They're a better team right now, and like we talked about, they're rolling right now. They beat Tennessee the last time. I forget by how much, but yeah, they've been rolling lately. So I got to go with the home team.
All right, next one here. A team I got looking on the outside of my top 10. I would have them right around 11 or 12 right now, I think, with Duke Villanova right around these guys. Wyoming, the Cowboys right now in the Mountain West, 10-1 in conference play, 21-3 overall, a team that we have completely kind of ignored throughout the season, and they're on an 8-game win streak. They're averaging 76 points per game. Yeah, I mean, one we haven't given a ton of credit to, though, in my opinion, for what they've been able to do and not getting any top 10 votes. If they can pull this one off tonight, which they probably should, and if they can continue to play well on the rest of the season, I probably finish these guys out as a top 10 team, led by Graham Ike, the 6.9 sophomore. 20 points per game right now and 9 rebounds. He's going to be a huge steal if he decides to commit to the NBA. I think that's definitely a guy probably mid-late first round that could provide some good bench scoring for a team in need this season. I really like what Wyoming has been doing, and obviously we're probably all picking them to win this game, and they don't really have much left on the season, so I mean, they're going to have Colorado State in Colorado State. Definitely want to watch out for, because that was an overtime last time out at Wyoming. So probably really the one last big test on the season. I think that's when they were last mentioned. But they got over the hump of Boise State and finishing out the season. I think Wyoming is great to finish as a 3-loss team, really. Maybe 4 if they slip up in there. And they got New Mexico tonight. The Lobos probably won't give them much of a run. So I'm not worried about it. I got Wyoming. I'm sure you guys did too.
Yep.
21-3, man. First, that's awesome. First in the Mountain West. Yeah, they're rolling.
Colorado State, they were really hype on Colorado State.
We talked about the game too, Matt.
Yeah, we did. And Wyoming came in there and just shut up all the rumors. I haven't heard anything about Colorado State since that. So
yeah, I mean we've definitely haven't mentioned Colorado State since that beatdown. Next game up here for us, we'll switch it over to the NBA. Hornets and Timberwolves. I think this is a pretty good matchup. Timberwolves have been pretty good at home this season, 16-10 overall when they've played in front of their home fans, and they still got Big Cat. I mean, Karl Anthony Towns is 14th right now in the NBA in scoring and 16th in rebounding, with a player efficiency rating that ranks 13th. So I think they're just fine, and they only got one guy out tonight. Charlotte's got Cody Martin and Jalen McDaniels both out for tonight's game. They have the Timberwolves favored. Both teams kind of on a slump. Hornets lost 4 of their last 5 right now, which definitely doesn't bode well for what they're trying to do. But both these teams are sitting around 500, trying to make that final push after the All-Star break, obviously. And I think they're both trying to take a high into that All-Star break coming up here in just, 2 weeks, I think, till we get to the All-Star weekend. So definitely should be a good finish to the season. But I like the Timberwolves right now. I think they've been playing decent basketball. I mean, they have a loss in there to Sacramento and Chicago, but they also have wins against Sacramento, and they just beat the Pacers 2 nights ago on the road. I mean, they're coming back home after a 4-game road stand in which they split this series. So I think you live with that. I mean, to go on the road and play 500, I think that's fine in the NBA, and they've been playing well enough at home. That Charlotte coming in at 15-16 on the road, they've had a lot of road games right now. I think they come in tired, and I got the Timberwolves.
Yeah, I'm going Timberwolves too. They're making a move up in the Western Conference. They're in a play-in spot right now, but they're not too far behind the Nuggets. And with a couple more wins, they might jump into that playoff spot and knock Denver down. So you gotta see what's going on. I mean, Denver has won 2 in a row now. Minnesota on a 1-game winning streak. They're both 6-4 in their last 10 games, though. Minnesota's becoming tougher and tougher. I like their team.
Timberwolves are ahead of both LA teams. I think that's a big thing too. Being ahead of both the Clippers and the Lakers at this point in the season, that tells me something about your squad. And just briefly mention, Trailblazers have jumped up into a play-in spot as well, that 10 seed.
Yeah.
That's a crowded area there, because all these teams in the West are all underachieving at that position of the standings. But I got Timberwolves as well. Team I've been talking about all year. I kind of like the way they've been playing with Cat. He's changed his game a little bit. I don't really trust Hornets that much. Hornets are an average team. They're a good team, but I don't trust them that much.
I like Anthony Edwards and D'Angelo Russell, and a lot of people forgot about this player. How about Patrick Beverly playing for Minnesota?
Yeah, he's great. We got to move on here, Matt. We're down to a minute left of the show.
Whoops.
One final pick, Matt's favorite team, the Boston Bruins and the New York Rangers here tonight. What are your guys' thoughts on this one? Matt, I know you're going Rangers. What about you, Mike?
Rangers.
I'll go Boston.
I'm going Rangers.
You can't pick them.
Yeah, I'm going Rangers in this one. I got to roll with my differential. We'll see how it pays off for the rest of the season. Can't go jumping away from it just yet. But that will do it here for the Casual Sports Podcast. I've been Alek Koberna. That's Matt Morrison, Mike Wolfgang. It's M&M Wednesdays tomorrow. Once again, Power Hour coming up next here on YSNLive.com. Hope you all have a fun night. Stay safe, and we'll see you all tomorrow.